when I made it. All right. Hi, my name's Federick, and tonight I want to talk to you guys about movies. A little bit more lighthearted than some previous topics, but I think you'll enjoy it nonetheless. So tonight, I want to begin with a simple question. What makes a movie great? In the world of cinema, directors and actors alike often strive to make $1 million idea become a reality. And sometimes with big budgets, this is often possible. You see this with some of the highest grossing movies of all time. However, not always do big budgets always translate to big success. Oftentimes, movies with very low budgets can be successful as well. Some of the greatest movies in different genres have started off as low-budget masterpieces. Movies like Halloween, Saw, Rocky, Napoleon Dynamite, one of my favorites, and of course the most popular low-budget movie of all time, The Blair Witch Project. Now all of these movies, with very, very minuscule budgets, make more than some countries do in an entire month. So how is this possible? When big budget movies have much more expenses, yet make the same amounts of returns. I believe that it's something within all of us that makes each movie-going experience different, and that's what filmmakers rely on. So when we talk about movies, another thing we have to take into account is big budget versus low budget. Now, some of the big budget movies do translate to great success. These 4 movies are the highest grossing movies of all time, with Star Wars recently climbing up. Now, I love all of these movies. I've seen them multiple times. Star Wars I've seen alone 3 times. But what exactly about them makes them great? Is it the amount of effects that they have? Is it the way they're written? Or is it simply this, that they had the money to make a much better movie than anyone else? All of these movies are great by all means, but my grandkids and their grandkids probably won't be watching Avatar and thinking it's changed anything for cinematic history. So what really makes a movie successful? I think that Star Wars is great, but does that necessarily mean that it's a great movie? Does it really inspire all of us to escape into a world that we otherwise wouldn't be able to picture on our own? What makes it unique to us and fully immerses us is all on our own. So when we talk about movies, there's a few couple categories that we have to address. The first category is movies that capitalize on our audience. Now these movies are everywhere. They're movies that have a very key specific demographic and often trying to exploit all of the cliches of that demographic so that they become more popular. This is movies like Transformers. And second, you have movies that have lots of hype and lots of budget and often have advertisements and brand deals. That's like Mad Max Fury Road, another great movie. And finally, you have low-budget movies with practically no hype and no money to work off of, yet explode into popularity just like any other movie does. This is shown with more independent movies like Spike Jonze's Her, or the recent Academy Award winner for Best Picture, Birdman. So, with all 3 of these movies having different amounts of budget and hype, but all accumulating almost the exact same level of success, there must be some other type of factor that we're not accounting for. So, while I can go into detail about all of these, tonight I want to go big picture and ask 2 questions. First, what makes a movie good? And second, what part do we all play in making a movie a box office bust or a cinematic masterpiece? And the answer is a lot more simple than you think. It's just us. Every single one of us has different emotions and different experiences and different interactions with the world. And thus, filmmakers can inspire different emotions within all of us. In fact, emotions are probably the most important thing in any movie. Emotions are everything. And yes, while I love Pixar's recent film, Inside Out, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is emotional response. Essentially, movies have this unique way, more than any other film or any other media in the entire world, of inspiring different reactions due to different sequences of events. To explain this a little deeper, I want to tell you a story about the first time I watched a pretty emotional movie. One day I went over to my friend's house, and it was the middle of the summer. And we got really bored because summers are long and there's a lot of stuff to do in the day. And we decided to go into his movie cabinet. and in the back of this movie cabinet, he had this area that only his parents went into. And in this was a red and yellow case back in the way back that we decided to pull out. And it was framed like it had a lot of use, but it looked like he had never seen it before. That movie was Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece, Pulp Fiction. Now, being well-versed in action movies at the time that I watched when I was little, I had seen a lot of the profane language and violence that this movie is well known for. And when I saw the sequences of action that I had come to love, my reaction was like this. However, my friend had a little bit more sheltered throughout his childhood and not seen bloody movies with two men shooting people. So when he saw Samuel L. Jackson make this face, his face turned to this. Every single movie has a really unique way of making it reactionary, and filmmakers can often not account for any individual aspect of any movie, which is why everybody, if you read any critic's response, is always going to be a little bit different. And that's the thing that makes movies so unique. When you have good writing, you have good character design like Pulp Fiction does, you can inspire different emotional responses in different people. I loved the movie I was seeing. My friend thought it was the scariest thing he'd ever seen. So when we're talking about movies, what makes them uniquely so interesting is the fact that they can trigger different emotional responses. And one of the reasons this is important is because the way movies gain more popularity is not just from advertisements or brand deals, it's from sharing information. The stronger emotional responses that people feel often trigger them to share it with their friends. That's why some movies who have practically no budget get talked about a lot. You go to work one day after seeing a movie and you tell your coworkers, hey, I saw this really great movie, it had all this great writing and all these cool shots in it. And it inspires those people to go see it as well. And then they tell their friends, and so on. That's one of the unique things that films can do that not many other forms of media can do. If I say, hey, I saw a really cool picture, and I show that picture to my friend, that's the end, he's seen the picture. But with movies, nobody's gonna have the same experience. So that's one of the ways that movies become culturally amazing, is that we all have different emotional responses and that we can share it with multiple people. And what I want to talk about next is how movies go wrong. Not one, not two, not three, but 4 Alvin and the Chipmunks movies released in my lifetime. While the first one wasn't as bad as I thought it would, it got progressively worse. And the thing that makes movies special is that Hollywood can put a lot of time in them. By the time you're hearing about a movie, it's been about 2 years since it started production, and it's been done for about 1.5 years. So how, when movies come out so much quicker than you expect, do they get worse? I mean, it's pretty predictable. This is what's known as Hollywood sequelitis, pushing out lots of movies in order to make a lot of money and fund the other projects that they want to do. Yeah, they want another Alvin and the Chipmunks movie? Okay, just do it. That way we can make Friday the 13th 26. Well, Friday the 13th was a great movie, as was the original Die Hard. But the problem is that when Hollywood doesn't spend its time, it gets worse and worse and worse. Like, Jason X is one of the worst horror movies ever made. Like, it was made in less than 6 months, and there was no thought put into it. And that's why we aren't able to connect to the characters and feel the emotions that they're feeling. Now, the other way that Hollywood often gets it wrong, and even though the 2 movies in the middle are great movies, is that they try to hide their laziness in the details. Rambo and Paranormal Activity were both great movies of their time. They incorporated elements of what was popular and were able to garner success on it. But when they have bland characters and subpar plots and usually only 1 or 2 things that make it unique, it's just enough to hide underneath all of the laziness that they have in making sequels. And again, Paranormal Activity and Rambo both fell into this Hollywood sequelitis. So the common theme is that if you spend time to make a movie great, like Boyhood did, and even though it didn't win the Academy Award for Best Picture, that movie was shot over 15 years with all the same actors, and thus it had critical and audiences cheering. So when you put time into a movie, it becomes a lot more popular and a lot more loved. And that's how movies like Citizen Kane and Pulp Fiction become some of the best movies of all time, even though they don't make as much as, say, Avatar or The Avengers. And the next thing I want to talk about is the way that movies reach us. The way that movies reach us. Relatability and understanding. movies uniquely attach to all of us. The first is relatability, which is pretty simple. If you can relate to what you're seeing on screen, it's probably going to be pretty good. You're going to enjoy it a lot more. And the second way is understanding. That comes from relatability. If you can understand what you're seeing through the lens of the characters themselves, it's a lot more engaging and immersive. Movies are an escape for a lot of people. I know they are for me. I'll pay $7.25 to go see a movie at Harkins on a Saturday night because I've got a ton of homework and 2 tests coming up the next week, and I just want to get away for a little bit. So I spend 2 hours sitting in a kind of comfortable chair and enjoying myself while I see things laying out in front of me and totally escaping the rest of my world, which is what makes movies pretty awesome. And the best way that movies can uniquely achieve this, even though other forms of media does it, is through its characters. Now, characters are unique for movies for a couple of reasons. It's because they are the entire culmination of everything movies try to achieve. Shots, sounds, effects, good writing, good dialogue, every single element of movies comes present in characters. So they make the movie, and often they're the things that we get behind in order to progress the plot from point A to point B to point C. Now there's 2 typical categories of characters. There's the characters we enjoy and the characters that we can see ourselves as. The first category is extremely simple to explain. Essentially, characters we enjoy are extreme depictions of emotions we all feel, and thus it's pretty easy for us to relate to them and just enjoy watching them. Some examples of this are Han Solo in Star Wars, Heath Ledger's The Joker in The Dark Knight, and Robin Williams' character in Good Morning Vietnam. The Joker is the epitome of chaos in a person. And while this isn't an emotion that we all feel on a constant basis, he's entertaining because he's clever and finds ways of putting this into the lives of people, and you kind of want to see him defeated. Han Solo is the idea of confidence as a person. He's arrogant, yes, but he's smart and he knows the way to get out of the situation. So these characters are well written and are thus enjoyable to watch. Same thing with Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam. He yells phrases that practically no one's ever heard. He inspires happiness in so many people at a time where people are dying outside their windows. So how these characters express the emotions that we all feel in circumstances where they're against the odds is why they become popular. Now the second category is a little bit more difficult. It's essentially characters that we can see ourselves as, and these characters usually don't have that much development. Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, Neo from The Matrix, and Harry Potter are 3 great examples. They're characters that are just thrown into a story. They don't have a lot of background when the story starts, but as it progresses, we can put ourselves behind the kind of bland faces of these protagonists. Just like in any other form of media, we grow as we watch the characters. But we don't have to be involved, and we don't have to think that much. We can just put ourselves in their shoes and imagine what we would do in their situation. If I was Luke and flying through the Death Star and about to blow it up, I could feel all the emotions he has because of clever writing. So with these characters, we're able to develop our own sense of immersion and our own sense of escape, which is why they become cultural icons and brands. So with characters, we've got the entire package. And well-written characters can make or break a movie. So when we talk about movies, what makes a movie great? Beauty. Because characters can be a lot, and plots can be a lot too. But the thing is that each one of us and our emotional experiences and our own responses to things is what makes movies great. We remember a movie like Star Wars because we can put ourselves in its shoes, see ourselves as the characters, and experience the things that they experience. It's worth the money to see a movie just for the escape that we get to feel overall. So the next time you go to a movie theater and you order popcorn and you sit down, think about what you're doing. You're contributing to a media form that has entirely changed the entirety of society and culture in the last 100 years. It totally reshaped the way that we're going to think about art in the coming years. So what makes a movie great?